you're in the middle of a career change, then you want to stick around for the story time, because I'm going to tell you how I went from student to business owner. I'm going to talk to you about pretty much how I went from a hot mess to a success. This is super important so that you can see from another person's perspective. It also helps you not feel alone in the process, and it can also give you some things to think about if you are yourself considering becoming an entrepreneur because you're tired of a soul-sucking job. And so before I dive right in, I just want to give you a little bit of an introduction about myself. I think it's really helpful to know exactly who the heck you're listening to. And so just give me these 30 seconds and we'll be right back. Hi, I'm Ilean Harris, an entrepreneur and Cuban American. When I started as an entrepreneur, I had little resources, so I quickly learned how to work smart. I experienced lots of headaches and setbacks when I started, but today everything is different. I've got clients in over 20 countries, I've traveled the world, and I want to show you how to do the same. In this community, you will gain amazing training and inspiration to build a business of your dreams and a great lifestyle to go with it. Whether you're an entrepreneur with lots of ambition and experience, or you have just started your entrepreneurial journey, you've come to the right place. Remember, you can have it all. It's super interesting seeing an intro just like the one you just saw and thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I can't believe I absolutely started from scratch. You know, what you see today, I mean, I'm recording this in the Dominican Republic, is not where I started. What you see today is part of a journey, not a one-time event. It wasn't like I said, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and next thing you know, I've got drone footage in my place on the water and this and that. You know, when you are making that change to become a business owner, it's hard. And when I started my journey as an entrepreneur, it wasn't out of inspiration. It was out of perspiration. It was extremely frustrating. You know, at the time I was working on my doctorate in psychology. I knew I wanted to be Dr. Ilean. I was working on my doctorate in clinical psychology and my PsyD, and I was working my butt off, okay? I was doing everything right. I was getting the good grades. I was going to school. I was doing my part, but inside I felt like I was dying. My teachers and I were not clicking. The content and it was just not something that I imagined it to be. It wasn't at all like my undergrad experience. And so I knew I liked psychology, but I could tell I did not think being Dr. Ilean was going to be a good fit. I mean, if I hated it in school, how was I going to like a lifetime of this career? And I started getting sadder. I started getting more stressed. I didn't recognize myself anymore. Every single day I would come home crying. And what was I crying about? You know, it's one of those things where someone asks you, where does it hurt? And you don't know what to say. You don't know where to point, but you know it hurts everywhere. Have you ever felt that way? Let me know in the comments if you can relate at all, or just leave a little emoji if you want to keep your story private. But I was at a loss. I had never felt this way. This was brand new. And you know, when you're the daughter of Cuban immigrants, when your family has gone through so much to become US citizens, to put through this effort to give you a better opportunity so that you can be in another country where you can aspire to do things that you couldn't have aspired to do before, then it seems extremely irresponsible. I had like this first generational stress, right? Oh my goodness, I have to make this happen. Look at all these people depending on me. It felt incredibly selfish to, for once, consider what did I want, what did I need, and that was horrible. It was horrific. Then at the time, of course, the country was going through a recession. This was back in 2010, 2011. People were upside down on their mortgages, and so there was a lot of uncertainty everywhere. Anyone you spoke to, they would sort of minimize and almost ridicule, like, oh, that's what you're worried about. Should you stay in this school? Should you, continue on this career path? And so I didn't really have a lot of people to lean on because there's not a lot of empathy to spread when everyone else was in survival mode, when everyone else was in a state of depression of their own. And so it felt extremely lonely. It was extremely stressful. And I never once considered changing my career to become a business. I mean, the way I grew up, if you had a business, you were probably breaking a bunch of laws because I didn't grow up in the best of neighborhoods. And so my family was always in the straight and narrow. And all I heard was go to school, get good grades, so one day you can get a good job. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to get a good job. What could be worse than how miserable I'm feeling right now? And so despite enduring more years of this program, because my family kept telling me, no, it won't be forever. Pain is temporary. No pain, no gain. Put your head down, get to work. And then you're going to be Dr. Ilean. And there was this pressure that I was just going to bring all this prestige and, whatever to my family. And so I just kept enduring. And one day I said, enough. I had years of this program. I hated it. I hated myself for sticking around to it. I knew it wasn't a good fit. And I knew that there had to be a better way that I could make my family proud, that I could just be like, oh my goodness, I'm going to put in the hard work. I wasn't looking for a shortcut. I wasn't looking for a handout. I wasn't looking for things to be easier. I just thought, my goodness, there has to be something better than me just being stuck in this soul-sucking situation where I am so depressed. And so I took a leave of absence with no savings, no plan, no idea what I was going to do next, because I knew that it was never going to come to me. I was never going to have a plan. If I was that depressed, if I was that sad, if I was that stuck. And so that's what I did. I took a leave of absence from the program, thinking to myself, well, if I take a leave of absence, I can come back. Maybe I just need a break. Maybe I'm burnt out. And then I applied to hundreds and hundreds of jobs. I remember applying to work at hotels making beds. I remember applying to work where my bachelor's degrees, because I have a couple of them, could be in use. And people would tell me, we're no longer hiring, we promoted internally. You're underqualified, you're overqualified, or you're qualified, but you don't have enough experience, or hey, this other guy's gonna do it for cheaper. And I was just applying to everything and anything, and nothing worked out. Absolutely nothing was working out for me. And even in that stressful state of figuring things out, let me tell you something. I was already feeling so much better and so much more like myself. My worst day in confusion was better than my best day in depression, in a toxic situation, in a soul-sucking environment. And so I said to myself, well, let me see what other options are. And a friend of mine invited me to learn more about business. I learned more about other opportunities. And I said to myself, well, why not? I've got absolutely nothing to lose. Let me give it a shot. So of course I didn't have any money to start my business. I barely had any money to keep my head out of water. So I sold my living room set. I sold my dining room set. I traded all of my textbooks on Amazon and I got store credit. With the store credit, I got a bunch of food. I got a new computer. So that's how much store credit I was able to get, because I had a lot of books, okay? I had been working on my doctorate for years, and we all know how expensive textbooks are. I got business books. I got to learning, and I put my head down. Put my head down to learn and to work. At that time, things get a little bit more interesting, right? To spice things up, my boyfriend at the time proposes to me. And so he proposes to me, I say yes, and I had a choice to make once I said yes. Do I wait until I get back on my feet and then start planning a wedding? Or do I just start planning a wedding? And I thought to myself, I didn't grow up with much money, and I had this resoluteness about me that I was done being sad, I was done being depressed, and I was done living in this bubble of let me see what I'm allowed to have. Let me see how much I'm allowed to dream for. Let me see what the circumstances permit me to do. I was done with all of it. And so I took the last little bit of pennies I had left. And when I say I had nothing, I was using the internet at Starbucks and Panera. There was truly nothing. And so I took my last bit of pennies and I ordered my wedding invitations. Now, when these wedding invitations were ordered, that kind of wiped me out. But the wedding invitation had a date, a time, an address, and it made this wedding feel real. It made the engagement feel like it was ours again, that it wasn't out of our control when we could start living our lives as husband and wife, and I mailed them out. I do not recommend putting yourself under that kind of pressure, but I was just that excited to rip off the Band-Aid. I was that sick and tired of things happening little by little, of overthinking, of checking with everyone's opinion. I just knew that I had to trust my gut. I knew that I was a hard worker. I knew that I was willing to be coachable. I knew that I could trust myself to show up. And at the same time, I was still applying for jobs. I was doing everything. And sometimes a bunch of doors will close because you are meant meant to walk through an open one. And a lot of doors closed for me in a remarkably short period of time. And I wasn't used to that. I was used to applying for a job and getting it, being an A student, volunteer work, having a fancy pants resume. Look at my internships. Look at this. I was used to rolling up my sleeves and working. I had never had anything just handed to me. And so it was a shock to me that you can do all the right things and still not have the best experience. That was completely something that rocked my world. It was a very formative experience that working hard is not enough. You also have to work smart. So I sent out these wedding invitations. I didn't pay for the venue before sending out these wedding invitations. I didn't have a reservation. I didn't have a wedding dress. My bridesmaids were buying their dresses and I didn't even have my dress. And the people around me didn't really know what was going on. And a lot of people say, well, were you being proud? Why didn't you ask for help? People around me just had love to offer. That's just the network I had around me. My family could have loved me through it, but that's about it. So I kind of saw sitting and telling everyone constantly just a bunch of complaining that was going to cut my time even shorter to figure it out. So I did not open up a lot, and that was just because I was on a time crunch. I had sent out wedding invitations. And again, I don't recommend this to everyone. It was really hard, but I was so resolute. It's very uncommon for someone to just be like, this is going to work, period, point blank. And at that point, I was more fearful of going back to being so depressed in that soul-sucking situation than I was about, oh, what if it doesn't work out? If it didn't work out, I don't care. I'll put a sign and I'll say, the wedding has been moved to the local McDonald's. It did not matter. I was going to have a happy date and I was going to have my loved ones there. And the location, well, I had a dream and I had a goal. And if it didn't work out, it was going to be fine. But the point was, I was no longer going to let situations and circumstances dictate what I was allowed to dream about, what I was allowed to want, because I at my core believe that you could have it all, but my reality was not showing that. And it was extremely stressful. It was an extremely trying time, but you know what? Once I started learning about business with my new computer, I sold my living room set and my dining room set. I was going to Panera and Starbucks, which I will eternally spend money at those businesses because they let me use a free Wi-Fi, and I don't even drink coffee and I don't even eat out. I cook all my meals at home, but I will eternally support them because we just bonded during that period of my life using the free Wi-Fi and me not buying anything there. And I started a business, and my fiance at the time, now my husband, he's working it alongside me, and we put our heads down. And instead of telling people what we needed, what our problems were, our goals were, we started finding people who had a problem that our business could solve. And look, I'm going to make a long story short. 90 days later, after trial and error, it was $13,000 month, this $1,000 month, that month, and the wedding was paid for. We had a new car. I no longer had to drive around it with paint falling off. We had our wedding, and my family is Cuban, you know, speaking Spanish. His family is American, South African. They're speaking in English. Each side of the family thought the other side of the family had paid for the wedding. Bridesmaids, no idea. It wasn't until like a year later that people even realized we had a business, what had happened, how the wedding had come to life. And it was a very, very life-changing moment because I said to myself, oh my goodness, thank goodness. Thank goodness I said yes to myself. Thank goodness I put myself out there. And then as people started noticing, a lot of people kept asking, well, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? And so we started sharing for free, and suddenly that became unsustainable. It just became unsustainable to tell all the people who were asking us about our story because they knew us. They saw how authentic it was. Word was spreading. Our results kept getting bigger. And then I remember that a friend told my husband about e-courses. And so he said, let's do it. Let's create an e-course. He's like, what? Who's going to get an e-course from us? So I make my husband create his first e-course. He makes it. And like in one weekend, another $3,000. And I'm like, wait a minute. And so then I start researching and I'm like, wait, people aren't offering these things in Spanish. Who's teaching all this to the Hispanic community? So I start this brand in Spanish. And next thing you know, well, you saw the intro before watching this. This is where I am today with customers in over 20 countries, over 100,000 email subscribers. And let me tell you something, none of this would be possible had I not made that decision, had I not taken the leap You don't go through all of those experiences without learning more, without having some highs and lows, without overcoming a lot of obstacles, without making a ton of mistakes. And so these 7 things are things that I always encourage people to evaluate as they're making a career change, especially to start your own business. You know, starting your own business is better and easier today than it has ever been, all right? We are living in the best time in history to be an entrepreneur. We are living in the best time ever to say yes to yourself, to say yes to your success. And I know it's scary, and I have been there, but there comes a time where you just can't take it anymore. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You're sick and tired of your soul-sucking job. And look, if you want to learn how to become a coach, if you want to turn your passions into profits, if you want to automate your sales, all of that, the how, I'm going to leave a free training in the description below. Actually, multiple free trainings. I'll leave them there for you. And you can sink your teeth into that. You know, that way I can focus here and tell you a little bit more about what to think about and what to start considering as you make the transition in your career change from whatever you're doing into something that is more inspiring, that makes you feel alive. Making a career change is not easy. It could be maybe a career change in your 20s, a career change in your 30s, a career change in your 40s, 50s, 60s. Whenever you are making this career change, there's a lot of things to consider. And that's what I'm going to share with you now and break down for you these 7 things. But if you want those trainings, if you're saying to yourself, well, I want to, do what this girl has done, I think that's pretty awesome. It's scalable, it's quick, you can do it from home, you can travel the world, all of that. I'm going to leave all those deep dive trainings in the description below. So you want to make sure that you sink your teeth into those, because I already learned the hard way. Why on earth would you want to reinvent the wheel? I don't know, some people do, but I have no clue why anyone would want to. Instead, girl, oh man, whoever, sign up, watch those trainings, and you're just going to see all the aha moments start coming up. Because for me, I knew when I was making a career change, I was willing to work hard. I was coachable. I wasn't looking for a handout. I was putting in the time. I was willing to show up and show out, but I didn't have the awareness. I didn't know what to do. The people around me were just people with good hearts, but they did not have that knowledge and that content. And so that's why I'll scream it from the rooftops, and I'll never get tired of teaching people how to do this, because we were growing our business, and then so many people kept asking us, well, how the heck did you do that? Whoop, there came a whole other career change right then and there. But this one wasn't because of the same soul-sucking, stressful changes that I had to make initially. This one was more out of inspiration, not out of perspiration. So the truth is that you don't have to figure out your entire life now. You need to evaluate these 7 areas, but you don't have to know everything now. You just have to figure out what the next best step is for you. What is the next thing for you to do? I love that book by Michelle Obama, Becoming, because yes, we're always becoming. And how I grew up, you just don't have that luxury. You put your head down, you do the responsible thing, you take care of your family, and guess what? You can have it all. You can take care of your family and live out your passions. You can travel the world and have a successful career. You can be married and have a successful career. You can be a volunteer. I've even been able to start a foundation now because I said yes to myself, and I don't have to turn my back on all the things I love in psychology. I use them in marketing all the time, and it's so inspiring, and I love people, and I love studying the mind and everything, but I'm not doing it in a way that makes me break down into tears every single night. And so here's the deal. You were meant for more. And that's probably the yearning that you're feeling. You were meant for more. You were born for greatness. You were not born to settle. And yes, you can have it all, and you can have it now. It's a matter of figuring out, where do you start? It's not a matter of, there's going to be a fairy or a genie, and there's going to be a magic wand involved, and it's going to be like those before and after pictures you see on Instagram, where like one side is like a total hot mess and the other side is a complete glamazon that's probably going to make an appearance on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. No, your career change is going to be a process, and you've got to embrace that journey. And I believe these 7 things for you to consider and evaluate will make that journey a lot more palatable. So let's start with the first one. What are your talents? Now, this is okay for you to even pause this video, or to just make a note to do it after you're done with this video, to write them all down. And I tell you this because I coach people in over 20 countries and in over 100 niches. And I promise you, a lot of people have talents that they didn't realize were talents because experts usually consider their talents to be common sense. Okay. And that's not the situation here. Your talents are special. That's why people usually call you for this one thing. That's why you always roll your eyes. Why doesn't everybody else get this one thing? For instance, I know people where tech is so easy for them. They code like I make Cuban food. It's just not a big deal to them. To me, I'm very grateful I can hire them because no, you're just not going to get me to code. It is not my skill set. It is not my talent. But for other people, it's amazing. When I was looking to make a career change because I just couldn't take it anymore in the situation I was in, I had no idea my event planning skills that I always did for free or that I volunteered at the church or that I did in college, that would ever come in handy because I was so stuck in that clinical psychology mindset, right? In the current career, you take other things for granted. I never realized that my empathy or my ability to listen or connect with others could be used outside of a clinician session, right? I never realized that being bilingual would help me to launch businesses around the world. I never realized a lot of things that were special about me because I actually toned them down because in my soul-sucking situation, it was better to not stand out, to not rock the boat, to not poke somebody's ego, to not shine too bright, to not do this, to not do that. Especially as a woman, right? You have to be more demure about your talents. Let me tell you something. If you want a successful career change that actually inspires you, you need to delete that from your mind. Like the little pen, the movie Men in Black, where boop, they delete your memory. You're going to have to work through that because you have talent, and the faster you identify what those are, the more you're going to succeed at figuring out what your next step is because you're going to identify things you're already naturally excited about. And let me tell you why this is a big deal. Because as an entrepreneur, you don't get paid for working. Sorry. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you do not get paid for working. You earn money when you get results. So if you hate blogging, if you hate talking to people, if you hate coaching, if you hate creating e-courses, like if you hate certain things and you have to sit there and learn about it and build it and do it because all the cool kids said, this is the easy way to make money, you're not going to uncover what your passions are, and your career change is going to just have you switch from one nightmare to another. You can actually have that nightmare get back to being a dream, and you can actually be excited about waking up again. It was so exciting to me to see that I could wake up without my alarm clock, and I was excited about my day. And so knowing what your talents are can help you pivot to something that you actually enjoy. Not just what you're good at, but what interests you. There's things I'm good at that I have pretty much no intention in monetizing. I'm pretty good at cooking. I don't know, maybe one day I think it'd be pretty fun to have a food truck, but I don't know if I'd work at that food truck every single day because I'm so much more excited about other things, okay? And so you've got to know what your talents are, but it's okay to also honor your interests. Then also think about your values. What's important to you? I'll give you an example of mine. For me, my values are having it all. I want to volunteer. I love humanitarian work. I love charity work. I love giving back. I love helping people. I love empowering women. I love business. I love growth. I love talking empires. I love thinking big, thinking strategy. I love my husband. I also want to have my family life. I love to travel. Let me tell you, travel is so good for my business. I come up with my best idea strapped in a plane seat. I think it's because I can't get up and cook and clean or do something else. So I'm just kind of sitting there looking at the clouds and my imagination is running full speed. I want to do all of that. And so one of my values is that whatever I do, I want to make sure it's scalable. And that's what I loved about coaching and e-courses and even network marketing because it's so extremely scalable. I mean, think about it. If 1,000 people join my e-course, that's awesome. That's not going to burn me out. If 1,000 people show up to your restaurant, you're going to have a long night. You're going to be very stressed out. And so because my values were also time freedom, and don't worry, I teach you all about these things and how to automate with webinar funnels and how to basically make sales in your sleep. I left that all in the description below, but those were my values. So if your values are, I'm not going to leave a soul-sucking job to basically work from home but still never see my kids, or, if that's a value, then be mindful of that because that's completely possible. You can make a career change and actually decide how you want it to look. The next thing is you want to know, well, what do you want out of this? What are your goals? And that is one thing that I had not thought about in a long time. And part of me not dreaming was what had me so sad. Like, that's it. I'm just going to school. I'm getting good grades. One day I'm going to get a good job. And I'm going to wait and see when I get time off so that maybe I can afford to go on a vacation or on a trip. That was not exciting me. It wasn't inspiring me. So no matter how long my goals take to achieve, I have goals I haven't even scratched the surface of yet. It's okay because they still inspire me every single day. I still have a purpose. I still have a why. My why usually makes me cry. So I think if you think about goals and you get so excited that you might even shed a tear, and you don't just get excited, but you also get a little bit embarrassed. You don't want to tell your friends. That's when you know you're thinking big. Because if my friends aren't making fun of me or like at least raising an eyebrow, keeping thoughts to themselves or rolling their eyes, like here she goes again, then I'm not dreaming big enough, all right? So if you want a career change or you want to pivot in your business or you want to enter a new industry, that's all right. You can do it. That's okay. Time is going to pass anyway. So the faster you consider all these things, the better. Then you also want to think about your priorities. You might want to get out of debt. Your priorities might be like, you know what? I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to make a chunk of money and I'm going to handle these things. And then I am going to pivot and do all these other things on the back end. That's okay too. Maybe your priority is your health and wellness. You want to work at the least possible and make the most amount of money. That's okay. Maybe your priority is charity work. That's okay. This is why when you create a business, you can't just design the business because then you don't have a business. You're not a business owner. You're just self-employed, honey. You are just creating a paycheck for yourself. But when you own the business, you get to design the strategy and build a business that supports your lifestyle. So even in the bottom of the pits, and I felt like I was at the bottom of hell, even in that dark point, I designed a lifestyle and then created a business to support it. I did not create a business and hope that I was lucky enough that the lifestyle would come with it. You can actually design your dream life and then build a life to support it. And then you've got to look around you. What are your opportunities? Okay. So in the beginning, I had no brand. I had no idea how to promote myself. I had no idea what to do. So the opportunities I had were I had opportunities to learn. I had opportunities to grow. I hustled. I said, what good is this living room set if I'm just going to cry on it, right? I sold that furniture. And let me tell you, if you see the furniture I have now, it'd be like, that was a good call, girl. That was a good call. It was definitely an upgrade. But in between upgrades, I for sure sat on some plastic chairs. But what a small sacrifice to be living my dream life. I was not willing to sacrifice all my happiness to maintain status quo. So at some point, you got to check your ego with your bank account and you've got to be willing to make some sacrifices. Are you watching a little too much Netflix when you should be watching video training so that you should be learning? I mean, you obviously already get this because you're watching this video. So if you're watching this, you've got a good head on your shoulders because you're saying to yourself, enough already. I'm going to be coachable. I'm going to learn and I'm not going to sit here reinventing the wheel when I could just be successful, right? So look at your opportunities. Great opportunities are affiliate marketing. People have already created the products. They render the services. All you got to do is promote them. That is one thing at a time, right? So then you master promotions and you get paid every time you make a sale, except they own the product. They render the services. They deal with customer service. They do all of that heavy lifting. And then you can master the marketing part. And then as you feel more comfortable, then you can add in your own products, right? And then you can start working on customer service, operations, all these other areas. But in the beginning, you can start with affiliate marketing. That is not requiring all these business licenses and a factory and a storehouse full of, merchandise. That's not necessary. You can start with network marketing. Very low overhead. You can find an opportunity that you are passionate about, that you are excited about. And again, it's just like affiliate marketing, except you can make a lot more because as people enroll on your team, by supporting them, you also earn. Do you know how many people I've recommended to jobs and I never got a match to their paycheck? I never got a thank you from the company because I helped them find a good employee. Well, that's not going to happen in network marketing. You can create e-courses if you've got stuff from your previous career you can monetize that online. You can become a coach. I mean, you can even have a free Zoom account. You can create a private Facebook group and have a paid membership for people to join, and you can go live in there and add value and answer questions. There are so many different variations of this, and I teach you all of that in the trainings I've left below. But look at the opportunities around you and remember that even if it's a stepping stone. So I remember when I left my career in psychology, I didn't care if I worked at a hotel making beds. Now, they never hired me, but I was willing to, and I knew that that wasn't the career change, but I knew it would at least get me out of crying every single day and hating what I was doing. So at least it was a stepping stone until I figured other things out. It's okay to be under construction. It's okay to not have that magic wand, right? So look at what's around you and see what matches your priorities, goals, values, interests, talents. And then, of course, look at your experience. What do you know? What are you good at? Who do you know? You'd be surprised who in your network can make a phone call and teach you about things and, offer their advice and all of that. So all of this together to remind you that you should not give up, that you can do this, that you can have a phenomenal career change and become an entrepreneur and be a business owner. It doesn't matter at what age you do it. If it's a career change in your 20s, your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it's absolutely possible. You can start at the top. You can start in the middle. You can start at the bottom. It doesn't matter, but you've got to start. I did it. There is so much more hope on the other side of fear. There are so many more results on the other side of action, not in theory. I was never going to get results thinking the situation to death. I just had to eventually rip the Band-Aid and get going. And so I'm super excited for you to be on this journey. Check out the resources. This is not the time for DIY, for reinventing the wheel. This is a time to be coachable and to learn. All right. So keep going, keep pushing. And remember, you can have it all and you can have it now. I'll see you in the next video.